Linguistics. It's not that well known, I must say. So when I say that I'm a linguist, people tend to think that I do literature, but no, I do linguistics, which is the scientific study of human language. Linguistics is a very broad and varied science, and people may do more empirical work or more theoretical work. So, for instance, there are linguists who study, who conduct experiments to see what happens in our brains when we use language. They do that in laboratories. We have a laboratory here in Oxford. However, I do more theory. I do theoretical linguistics on syntax and morphology, namely on the mechanisms that allow us to build sentences and words respectively, on the connection between these two mechanisms, and also on the connection, the link between words and sentences on the one hand and meaning on the other, and how that connection may vary cross-linguistically, and whether we can come up with a comprehensive theory of that. Yes, sure. I can give you an example of one of the phenomena that have been interesting me for a long time. Consider the sentence in English. Sue danced into the room. This sentence entails that Sue ended up in the room and that she went there in a kind of dancing way. We see that in English we can express what we call the manner of motion, that is, how motion takes place, in the verb, danced, in this case. And we also see that the actual change of location, or the trajectory of the motion event, is expressed with this complex preposition, into. Now, this kind of expression is also found in all Germanic languages, in Latin, in Finnish, etc. But there are languages in which those sentences just sound weird, what we call ungrammatical. Take the literal rendition in a Romance language like French, for instance. Sue est dansé dans la chambre. Now, as said, this does not sound natural in French, at least in order to express that Sue danced into the room. This we mark with the asterisk. The normal way to express the English sentence in French would be like this. Sue est entrée dans la chambre en dansant. Whose literal rendition in English is okay, albeit a bit clumsy. Sue has entered the room dancing. What is interesting to see is that in French, the notions of manner of motion and of trajectory are expressed by different components of the sentence. So the main verb, est entrée, so she entered, expresses the trajectory, the fact that Sue ends up in the room, while the manner in which she ends up there has to be expressed with this gerund, en dansant, dancing. So we see that English and French express these meaning components differently, and that the difference is systematic, and that they represent two big blocks of languages. Now this prompts all sorts of interesting research questions. What does the variation depend on? Is it because French does not have prepositions like into? Or is there something more abstract going on? Do we find any other language type? Now, this is the type of research we carry out in theoretical linguistics. My research feeds directly into my teaching. The example that I just gave you, I have used very often, both in the lectures specifically on the linguistics of Romance languages, Portuguese and Spanish, and also, interestingly, in the translation, English-Spanish, Spanish-English translation tutorials that I provide for oral students. And students, even those that are not linguistic students, they really appreciate knowing the underpinnings of the contrasts between English on the one hand and the target language on the other. So they really like understanding that there is that those differences between the languages are principled, so that they can actually apply a particular method or principle to produce more nuanced and more genuine translations. So yes, definitely my research feeds into my teaching.